evening, my metalheads. Tonight I thought it would be a good time for me to show you a little video about Zenithal priming, because I'm getting ready to prime up my Guild Ball guys, because guess who's going to be in a Guild Ball league? Yours truly. So to start, I'm going to show you how to do it on an airbrush. I have here one of my Mortician guys. This is Gassed, which is hands down going to be my favorite one out of all to paint so far, besides when I get Scalpel in that I just ordered. I'm going to use the black Stylin Res. This is the Badger primer in black. Then I also have the Stylin Res primer, Badger primer in white. If you go on webairbrushes.com for 4th of July currently, they have a sale where if you use their code, you get like 40% off plus free paint. I don't know which free paint you get, but hey, free paint's free paint, right? Okay. As for airbrushes, I have here my handy dandy trusty Badger Patriot 105. I love this airbrush. We have two of these in the shop. If you're looking for an airbrush to start out with, these are really easy to use and they're also very reasonably priced, just so you know. So, let's begin. Let me put my phone back because everybody and their grandmother's messaging me. Alright, so you got the airbrush, the black primer, and I will explain what Zenithal priming is as I go along, of course. So, purpose of Zenithal priming is to create a automatic dark undercoat of black, and then the white, it would be the undercoat of the highlighting. Now this is great and very makes your life easy, especially for tabletop painting, because especially if you do things like use a lot of washes and glazes and such, it makes your life a lot easier. People also do use it for display painting also, again, in order to create a shadow undercoat and a highlight undercoat as well. Turning on my compressor. The compressor I'm using is a Sparmax. I'm testing out my airbrush to make sure it's spraying correctly, which it is. And I'm going to start off by priming the entire figure in black. Doing the base as well, the hair. At the same time, once in a while I'm switching over to only pressing down just to let some air go through, and that's just to make the primer dry as I go along. And I'm just gently going over. You make sure to get under all the crevices, especially with an airbrush. That should be nice and easy, because you don't want to miss any spots, because then you'll have to go back in, and you don't want to do that. You want to save time, especially when you're just tabletop painting, to get it on the table. Little spots in there, getting in between on the hip. Sorry if my camera's like getting underneath the hair. Right now I'm double checking all the little spots and I'm making sure that I'm getting everything. Getting underneath. Forgot over by the foot, back part of the base. There's a spot in between the weapons. Looks like it's getting sassy trying to get out of focus. There we go. Sorry about that, guys. Now I'm double checking myself, and it seemed that there was some spots missing in the cape, but I got that. Double checking myself. Getting in between on the weapon there, underneath certain parts, behind. Alright. And our our buddy Gast here is black primed fully. No spots missed. So I got that. Alright, continuing on. I just finished completely priming him in black. Now I'm using my Minotaur airbrush cleaner to clean the airbrush, clean out the black primer. Leaving it on because I'm spraying it into the airbrush cleaning pot. That's what you're hearing. I'm spraying into that right now. Now, in the meantime, I have to tell you that the next step I'm going to do is with the white primer. With the before I do the white primer, what I have to do is I have to choose where all the highlighting would take place and where my main light source would be. Now, basically, looking at the figure, my main light source is going to be over here at the top of the head and at the top of this arm where he's reaching out. Also, this part here where the chain, up here with the weapon, and then there'll be some highlighting in other parts too, like on the leg and such. So that's what I'm going to be highlighting on the most when I do the white primer. I will also have some highlighted spots on the base as well. Continuing on there. That's me continuing to spray into the airbrush cleaning pot. Black primer you want to make sure you clean out real good. Now I'm wiping the needle and I'm making sure there's nothing on the needle. Nice and pretty clean. There's a little bit of a black spot, but that's no big deal. So what I'm doing is I'm just spraying out the excess there. Cool, done. White Stynylrez res. And I'm just putting a little because I'm not going to require that much. Testing out the airbrush to make sure it sprays white like it's supposed to, and we're good. Alright, so now I'm choosing my light source and I'm creating an angle. Okay, I'm spraying at an angle, I'm holding the figure at an angle, and also I have the airbrush over a good distance. And you just gently, like you saw me with the black primer, that I was continuously spraying a bit. Now with this, with the white, you don't. Because you're carefully choosing your spot. Okay, now like I said, I'm going the most on the chain there, on top of the head. The hand where he reaches out is what I'm doing the most, and then the rest of it is just kind of touching on it, okay? And there you go. And I just airbrushed the highlight. Here's Gast Zenithal primed. Okay. Actually, I think I'm going to add a little more at the top of the weapon there, now that I'm looking at it. And that's what you want to do. You always want to double check yourself and make sure it's the way you want it. See, that's why I did that. Okay. Then I put a little more at the top of the arm. We're going to check ourselves again. I think that looks pretty good. So that's Zenithal priming with the airbrush. I didn't want to go too crazy because I do want it to have a dark look at the end. So that's for that. And next I'm going to teach you how to do it with the spray can. Okay, and we're back. Next I'm going to teach you how to do Zenithal priming with the spray can. So I have here Formula P3 black primer. Sorry, I'm trying to do this with the... I was trying to do it so it's close enough to the model, but at the same time, the base is there. So I got the P3 primer in black, P3 primer in white. Oh, actually, it's better if I do it that way. Okay, now I know for next time. So what you're going to do, same drill. You're going to start off by priming the whole model in black, and then choosing your light source and hitting the highlighted areas with the white. Okay, so... This is also from Guild Ball Morticians. This is Dirge. This is the team's mascot. It's a bird, if you don't see it well enough. But I will give you a close-up, so that's good. First of all, you want to make sure you shake your can really well. I already shook it some before. That way you're not sitting there for a whole minute watching me do it. Because, you know, that's not that exciting, right? Make sure you're in a well-ventilated area. I have all the windows going, and I already have a fan going on, so. And then do the whole thing in black. And I'll hold that real quick. It's gonna get on my fingers, but it's all part of the job. Now I sprayed a little away here and there, just so that it's not, to make sure that it's spraying well the way it's supposed to. And the P3 primers, they spray quite a bit at a time, so that's why another reason why I'm making sure to be careful. GW primers sometimes tend to do that as well. All right, so we got the whole thing here. You see a lot of shininess, of course, because it's still wet. And don't worry about my fingers being all black and whatever. I'm actually very used to this, and we have good cleaners here in the shop, so that's a good thing. So that's the black. Putting the cap back on. And you just give it a second to dry. While it's drying, just gonna continue shaking up the white. We have gloves in the shop, and I have one right next to me, but I forgot to put it on. Okay, that should be shaken enough. Then what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to use my airbrush real quick to give it some air, to blow it dry a little bit. Now usually people will do that with like a hair dryer or something, but I'm going to do it with my airbrush. Blow some air on it. And if you have a hair dryer and you're going to dry it with that, then you make sure to use the cool setting and keep a good safe distance from the model itself. All right. That should be dry. Now, one con about using a spray can is that you might find that you missed some spots. In this case, I didn't really, so that's a good thing. But sometimes you'll find that you might have missed some little spots, and then you have to go back in with a brush or go back over with an airbrush or something like that. And, you know, that's no big deal, but that's just so you know that that's something that can happen. Alright, so again, we're choosing our light source. I'm sitting here thinking that because the mascot, you know, that his wings are up this way and stuff, that I think I'm going to make the light source a little more in this area here. And then I'm going to get some in the front of the base. So I'm going to do that. And I'm about 8 inches away from the model itself. You spray at an angle. And because when it sprays, like the spraying comes out in a fan, that's another reason why I'm doing it like really carefully. I'm going to do it just a touch. I'm trying just hit it just a touch on the front. I'm trying to be careful because it comes out a lot at a time. There we go. And there's Dirge. Zenithal primed. That was done with the spray can. I don't know if you've ever seen, in case you've never seen a P3 primer spray can before. That's what they look like. That's what the nozzle looks like. And it sprays out in a fan. Let me try to make sure I only get the box, if you can see it. As you can see, it sprays out in a fan shape. See, that's why you gotta be careful when you spray it. And then next, I'm going to show you how to Zenithal prime by hand. Okay, now I'm going to show you how to Zenithal prime by hand. Now, basically, the only time that you would utilize doing it this way is if, let's say, you're at a convention. Usually at convention halls and stuff, they don't usually encourage that you use spray primer or use an airbrush and things like that. Or maybe somebody that you're with during paint night or something has asthma, so therefore you cannot use those things, you know, for priming, painting, or what have you. So best way to do it is to learn by hand. What I have here is the actual my gill ball itself. Oh, thank God that camera focuses by itself. I was getting nervous. Then I have here Vallejo surface primer in black, Vallejo surface primer in white. this can be used both by hand and it can also be used in the airbrush. But this is just in case, again, if you got to do it by hand. So I'm going to put a few drops of black there. Just in case I need, I'm going to water it down just with a drop of Flow Aid so that it comes on nice and smooth. It's also, these surface primers are still new, so I only used them one time so far. And I am using an old Games and Gears brush. It is a size 4. And you'll see why I'm going to use it for both sides in just a second. But it's an older brush, kind of messed up. So if you're going to do priming, do it with an older brush. See, this is another reason not to throw your brushes away. And I'm a lefty, so forgive me if I notice my hand keeps leaving the camera a little bit. But I think part of that's because I'm a lefty and I'm trying to sit there and, you know, do this on camera. And I'm not used to painting on camera, but I'll get there. So as you can see, I'm just kind of slopping on that black paint, or black primer rather, sorry. And I'm just slapping it on there. Okay, so I got one coat there. I think I'm going to do another coat. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use the airbrush again to blow some air on it to speed up the process up. Spray in the cleaning pot there because it ended up there was a little bit of airbrush cleaner still in there. Alright, got that cleared out. Back to the air. And that's alright because I was going to do another coat of black primer anyway, so I'm not worried about the fact that it got off the ball. Alright, that looks pretty good. Gonna go back over again and do a second coat with the black. Slopping it on there. Now this time, I really want to make sure that this coat is dry. And you're gonna see why in just a second when it comes to me applying the white primer. Going back to using the airbrush again to use the purpose of air. And you can see it's starting to dry. Taking a second. Airbrush is currently at 15 psi, just in case you're curious. I know sometimes people ask about stuff like that, so they know how to set their compressors when they do the same. I usually have it at 15 to 20 psi. I don't tend to go past that on any of my compressors. Alright, that's looking dry to me. Sweet. Alright, now got the white surface primer. I'm not going to add any Flow Aid to this. And you are about to see why. I'm using the other side of the brush. Now, if you are familiar with how to do dry brushing, that is what I am about to do. So I go to the highlighted spots, the spots that I want highlighted. Now, pretty much because this is just a ball on a field, I can pretty much highlight most of it, especially up at the top of the ball. And this paint's a little thinner because, you know, it can be used in the airbrush. So I'm just really gently going over picking up some more onto the brush, brushing the excess onto the paper towel. I'm going to put some air on this. Dry it up a little. Now there are brush-on white primers that you can just, you know, regular dry brush it on and you'll be just fine. So do keep that in mind. This is a little thinner than, say, the Reaper Master Series brush-on white primer, because Reaper has a brush-on primer too. And this Vallejo brand is thinner than Reaper's brand. So just so you know what to expect. All right, I think that looks pretty good. Oh, forgot a little bit of the rock there. I'm just gently going over like I would dry brushing. And there's still shadowing right where I want it to be, which is pretty much underneath the ball, which is where most of the shadowing would be anyway. Hand Zenithal primed. And it doesn't have to be perfect. It's just as long as you have the right idea. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it, guys. So be sure to like and share, and also be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. And stay crispy in milk, and have yourselves a good night.